And welcome to the City of Isani special meeting for, I don't even know what the date is, Friday, March 19th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could all rise for Pledge Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doing roll call, all council members are present in person. Councilman Burgley is via Zoom present. Therefore, we're all present. I don't have an agenda for this, and I don't know why. Oh, there it is. Any public comment at this time? None at this time. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt the agenda by Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
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 That was Paul Burgley. You have to state your name and say aye, Councilman Burgley, because you're via Zoom. Business items is a resolution approving plans for ordering advertisement for bids for the municipal liquor store. Ms. Wood, do you have anything to say on this?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you for this evening. I'm actually going to kick that over to Mike England, who is here from Woodseth, to carry this item for us tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Mike England with Woodseth. First of all, just thank you for being available for this special council meeting to approve going out for bids. Thank you for being flexible. We were not ready with our plans, so we had always anticipated the March 19th today being completed with everything, and so we're happy to be completed, ready to go out for bid, and so I did bring 2 copies of the specs and the drawings, but so thank you for meeting tonight, and that we weren't able to be on the regularly scheduled council meeting. So we're just here to ask for resolution to go out for a bid, and then also just to answer any questions that you may have at this point. But we're excited to get this out for bid.
Any questions, comments, or concerns by the council?
Nothing's changed since the last meeting as far as the plan.
No.
No questions.
The plan review that went through for Planning Commission, nothing has changed since then. This does have more of the interior layout and some additional items. It does show the bids that have the alternate bids, so we will have not just have them bidding the seamless steel roof, but also asphalt, and then with and without the snow melt and the concrete for the sidewalk area.
Those are the only 2 alternative bids that I mean, I didn't have time to go through all 517 pages, but I know. I skimmed through a lot of it, but that's the only 2 places I saw alternative bids, right? So,
That is correct.
so I don't know. I mean, I know we talked the other night that after we get the bids, we can kind of look at some.
There was a few things that was originally asked for, but they were removed, so they're not being even considered as an alternative.
Okay.
I mean, it was like granite tops, we're just going to P-lam.
Okay.
I mean, there was some items that didn't even come in to even play. The standing seam roof, metal roof is a huge thing, and so is the snow melt. But I think if that alternative is just piping only, and then the other one is completing it.
Okay.
So,
And something that was raised last meeting, Councilman Gordon, you had said it was a small group. I don't know if you're aware who's on the group, but it's only Councilman Lundin, because we all agreed that that was probably the best. I don't know if you recall that, but I did ask everybody if they had a problem with it. And he's the only one, and then there's Mr. Cook, Ms. Wood, Mr. Becker, staff-wise.
Yeah.
So that's all that's there to represent us. And then he
Right, but I
brings
mean,
it
I
back.
guess I assumed at some point we would be discussing.
Oh, yeah,
more
we
of the
will.
details,
We will.
you know
We
what I
will.
mean? And that's all
But
I
I'm
was
just
asking.
making you aware that that's what it is
Right.
now, and then once it's
Right.
kind of come down to the brass tacks, then it'll be brought back and
Right.
we'll all over it.
But, I mean, I have some questions as far as, you know, like, I mean, one that kind of stands out is like section 7, where we're talking about wood siding and fiber cement siding, I think it was. I mean, vinyl siding obviously is gonna be cheaper, right? So, I mean, I know there's 65 overlay things that maybe come into play there, but can we do vinyl siding that looks like wood siding? I mean, is there areas where we can save money with things like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, very good question. And so what we did do throughout our design meetings, so we would have weekly meetings, and about a month and a half ago or so ago, we did take a look at, so we've got the Nichia material, so that is really the accent materials along the exterior. And then what we have infilling in between then is a LP Smart siding, and so that's a very common and a very economical exterior cladding material. So from a vinyl siding standpoint, commercially, I haven't used that. Residentially, for sure, that's a very economical opportunity there. But the LP Smart siding is an economical commercial
Okay.
siding application, so.
Yeah, and I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about, so I mean, I'm just.
No, it's a very
I'm
good
just spitting
question.
stuff out, and I should have probably
yeah.
brought that up at the planning meeting, but.
No, good question.
Because I know you brought in samples of the siding at that meeting, so. But I mean, I guess I just thought that there would be more, and maybe that's still something that we can kind of, once we actually have the bid, when we get this bid, will we see kind of item by item, sort of, that this section is the price that was, or are we just gonna see one total bid, or are we only gonna see pricing on the alternatives, or?
So what we're going to do, it'll be a lump sum bid, however, there is gonna be some breakdown that you typically see from the civil side of things. And then typically what we'll do then is we'll ask for a divisional breakdown, so then as it relates to woods and plastics or concrete, so we will be able to see that detail.
Okay.
So typically that happens though when you award that to the successful bidder, because if you just ask basically everybody for that, sometimes they're a little bit hesitant to give that information, but.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work to go through and say, yep, this is gonna cost this is gonna cost that, sure.
Sure,
So-
but, as we went through the design process collectively, we were going back to the project budget spreadsheet, and so we had some anticipated costs by division, and so we'll be able to see how those numbers come in. For example, we did identify woods and plastics. I mean, we're all hearing it with wood, with sheeting, it's fluctuating quite a bit. But anyway, we will be able to kind of analyze
Okay,
what the different divisions of construction are and then how those prices came in.
okay,
Once it's awarded to the,
Yeah, correct.
yeah, right.
when we choose.
Right, yeah, okay. All right, and that's good with me. I want to make sure that we have a time where we can kind of look into more detail on some of those things, and I'm sure we'll have more time to kind of, once we award who's going to be the best, people for the job, then we can kind of dig into some of that a little bit more in detail, but.
And just to chime in, I guess, a little bit, like we're mentioning, it would be after award, so you would actually have awarded whatever that lump sum bid was. And so if you're thinking about wanting to make any, changes, reductions and things, or looking at it and changing it, those would be like change order type things after the fact, but you would have already awarded based on what these documents are saying right now.
Okay, so the time to make some of those changes would be before we award them?
Well,
Or we
This-
can,
I just don't want you to feel like it's not, it will be awarded at the amount before you get to see those breakdowns where you'd be analyzing, whether you were wanting to discuss changing anything. Is just be, a change order type process after the fact as opposed to upfront, just so you know what you're going into. So.
Also, if you realize the 65 overlay zoning, not just saying 65 overlay, it's also the zoning on the building not to require, not to use vinyl siding. So that's part of it. So,
right.
I
We
mean,
just learned the other day that doesn't matter anymore.
well,
But,
yeah. Jimmy, that's not,
I
that's.
know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Councilmember Gordon, I would like to mention, though, this would be the meeting, if you have things that specifically that you want to make sure got looked into
Okay.
in putting together these, the scope and specs here, this would be the meeting to bring those items up for discussion.
Okay.
Another item that I want to mention, Councilmember Lundin had said that some of the things we just excluded. Another item that we excluded was the additional, because we could see the potential in the future to have a couple more registers and checkout areas. We did exclude those off the bat because we do feel like we have enough counter space to add a third register should we need it. And then if we find that we need additional register, like whole counter units. We'll add those later at that time.
Okay.
So we did take those out just to make sure we didn't overbuild it, so to say, for that part of it. And we can add it in later should we need that, because it's so successful, we need to.
Some things we have to bury in the concrete. That's, they have to go in now.
So John was aware of all these too as well, right? Like,
Correct.
it discludes the
Yes.
changes, okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I mean,
all
and
we're
the-
gonna do here, Councilman Gordon, is we're gonna throw this project out to, let's say, 5 people. Those 5 people bid on it, and then we'll choose who we feel would be just to build our liquor store.
Right.
And then we award it to that person, and then
Right.
once it's awarded to that person, then we could potentially pick it apart.
Well, but what
Well,
Jason's saying with the
yeah.
change order, I mean, the change orders are gonna cost money to
Money
make
and
change
time.
orders, or?
Money
and
Depends.
Money and time, yeah, right.
You won't get the full discount on a change order.
Yeah,
Because there is time involved in it.
So-
But I'm gonna be straight honest with you.
Yeah.
The only things that we specifically asked for was to go all energy efficient, LEDs. And basically, there really isn't, there isn't any flooring that we're doing, because he's doing polished concrete or something of such. So there isn't flooring going in. It's just painting the walls.
Yeah.
And the other stuff is gonna be security system, you know.
Yeah, I
that
mean,
kind of stuff.
I think I'm pretty close to the end of, I mean, I don't know how many more sections I had to go, but, I mean, it looks like everything is pretty, you know, I think you
pretty
guys did a
straightforward.
pretty good job. I think I don't see anything in there, but of course, like I said, I don't know anything, so, so you know what you're talking about, and I
Yeah.
trust you. So, I mean, if you say that it's how it should be, I mean, the only other thing I was gonna ask, other than the siding, was the cabinets, actually. I mean, are we covering that with stuff that's affordable, which you already said, you know, we passed up on granite and that type of thing, and, I mean, what other materials are we using to finish those off, and, you know, are we being efficient with that? And
I think it would be great to have Mr. Anglin go just through, give a brief overview of kind of all the elements interior-wise, since that wasn't discussed. If you could do that now, I think that'd be great, because that might spark some ideas of like, well, did you guys do this or this?
Sure.
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, you bet, thank you. So from the interior side of things, priorities were to provide very durable materials. So that does really speak to what we selected for the exterior as well. You know, we did identify, I know we're supposed to talk about interiors, but just to take a step back, you know, the exterior cladding, we wanted to make sure that that was a durable, low-maintenance material for the city of Isanti as well for a lot of years. And then as we get into the interior, it is the polished concrete that is for a majority of the interior. And so that's a very durable, and that's really what we talked a lot about early on, and John had mentioned that. We did talk specifics as far as the walking surface of that polished concrete, and that it's very critical and important that we convey and specify a certain slip coefficient. So that's within the specifications. So it's not only what kind of finish, but it's also then the expectations of the performance of that. And so really everything that we did was within the context of this is a building that the city is going to own and operate for 50 years. And we also thought a lot about this from the site plan and from the building. What about expansion down the road? And so we really kept that in mind as well. So within the retail space, it is sheetrock walls, painted sheetrock, and it'll be a vinyl base. And so vinyl base is something that's very common within retail buildings as well. So from a maintenance standpoint, that's going to perform very well along all the walls, and, you know, a majority of that retail is gonna be your product. You know, that's really what you'll be seeing. The ceiling will be acoustical ceiling tiles. Again, you know, a pretty standard commercial application. LED lighting throughout. That's the interior and exterior.
as far as the ceiling tiles, I mean, can we get by cheaper with just leaving that all exposed and
No.
kind of going more of an
No.
industrial look and
No.
stuff like that?
It's
or-
actually
It's
not
gonna
as
be-
cheap as you think it is.
Hey, there's
because-
gonna be ductwork and electrical, and there'll be stuff hanging all over. That's not a look that I would wanna represent
Yeah.
as what we're
I mean,
doing.
some people think that's cool, I mean, the industrial.
I think it's ugly.
Does it save any money to do it that way, or?
So Councilman Gordon, it's a good question. You know, on the back stock area, we do not have acoustical
Okay.
ceiling tile.
Okay.
So in some of the areas that are more just storage and back of the house, so everything that's above the rail cooler and beer cave, for example, that is just the sheetrock. And so that's what's in there. As far as out in the retail space, though, I would have to agree with Councilman Lundin that the way that we set up the mechanical system, because if you do have exposed ductwork, it's then a much more costly
Okay.
ductwork as well. And so, and then with power, with running low voltage for security, for example, all the cameras, you really have to then do that in such a way where it looks good, it's aesthetically pleasing. And so there is some additional cost with actually doing that. And when you do have a drop ceiling type scenario, I think you're actually going to be money ahead by doing it that way.
Okay.
You'd be surprised how much, I have a friend that did that, went that route on his building, and it costs him a fortune to go up there and clean every year.
Because it is a
Gets
dust
dusty,
collector.
Because it gets-
Yeah,
And then you're going
Oh,
from
it gets
rectangular
nasty.
ductwork to spiral ductwork,
Yeah.
and then you're going to run conduit because you gotta have everything, and,
Yeah.
you do have to meet certain codes for all this stuff too also. So it ends up being more costly,
Yeah,
and then
that's
you
true.
got somebody up there cleaning. So
Yeah.
now you're putting in a cleaning service
Yeah.
every year.
And when you got retail below that surface, not just like a bar and a dance floor, when you got retail and goods, it all has to be covered. I mean, and it is a huge mess when he has this company come in and clean.
sure. Okay.
We do have, so for the interior doors, we have wood doors, hollow metal frames, and then, but we do have a door in between the retail and the backstock area. It will be similar to what's at your liquor store now. It's a double impact door that will take the abuse, and so that'll be a perfect door for that application. And then, yeah, once you're back in the backstock area, even into the employee break room, we've got sealed concrete and as opposed to polished concrete. So, again, there's just a level of finish where we're putting certain dollars in the areas where the customers will be served, and then in the areas where you're running, pallet jacks or stacking pallets of product, we obviously dialed that back a little bit. And that's a very standard finish for that area. We do have for the deliveries then, we have 10-foot by 10-foot overhead doors. With the loading dock area itself, we do have a dock leveler and then an enclosure that goes around that. So from an energy efficiency standpoint, and also for the safety of the employees and for the ease of deliveries, it's going to be a much more efficient
Yeah, for
scenario than what you have right now, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, as far as within the backstock areas, the break room, the restrooms, there is painted sheetrock primarily, is what you'll see as that interior finish. Again, we have, as we were reviewing the overall project cost and even thinking about the cost to bring shelving over and then to purchase new shelving, the refrigeration equipment, and the rail and beer cave enclosure. So we're taking those costs into account as well. So we really did early on prioritized, what's going to make this facility most profitable, and that started really from the access points driving in to, from the site. We talked a lot about that, and it's really being accommodating from the vehicle side of things, the drive up, for your customers there. And then, from there, then we looked at the building and so yeah, it was just a really great process, I have to say, with the entire group, as far as really people giving great input early on. And again, I think the first meeting I had with you all was that your ideas, and it felt like you were really on the right path towards what this needed to be, and that's where we're at now too, so.
Okay.
I really like the idea, though, of the heated sidewalks, because there's a lot of less salt's gonna get tracked in to the liquor store.
Maintenance, but it all comes down to dollar.
Safety, yeah. But if the piping's there, we can tap into it.
We can always put the boilers in later. That's why it's an alternative as piping only, and then piping and boilers.
Yeah,
So that's why that went that route.
that's a
And
good way to go.
also, as in the counter space, we removed cabinet doors. There's only gonna have a couple locking ones, the rest are gonna be open. These are things that aren't necessary to spend the money on either.
Yeah. I mean, can we get another alternative with no piping at all, or, I mean, is the piping?
You can just
really-
remove the piping is a bid. You just take both of them out and not have it.
Okay.
But
You can't-
liability,
to put it-
salt,
yeah.
somebody out there shoveling all the time, eventually it'll pay for itself. More so than you think.
Councilman Lundin, thank you for, and Josie, you brought that up as well. So the point of sales counter, yeah, that was another area where we talked quite a bit about that. And we did talk about a solid surface, but then we then went to a plastic laminate. And so we identified some things that you get into your new location and you bring in that revenue, and there were some items that were targeted as possible upgrades down the road. You know, once this new facility was operational and bringing in revenue, that was favorable. So, and with that point of sales cabinetry, we did go through that in one meeting. Actually, that was primarily what we talked about, and it was the amount of lockable cabinetry. And I went to the existing liquor store and walked through that with John, and so then we were able to identify and really take a look at the amount of linear feet of counter that you have, which is pretty substantial. But we talked about it with a point of sale closer to the entrance, and then also just queuing up the drive-up traffic, and so getting those orders ready to go. So we were able to talk about the point of sales, and then the printer down on the end closest to the door that will be for the drive-up customers, and we were able to then establish that, you know, a lot of that can just be open shelving that could be flexible. So you could be putting shelves where it makes sense as the business grows and you react to, you know, demand, I'll say. And so that was a really good meeting too. And again, that just established when you have all those doors and all that hardware, I mean, all those things add up. So that meeting really was a great opportunity for us to finalize that design and again, design what's needed now and then also gives you the flexibility in the future. On the customer side, it's the 150 milliliter, the smaller bottles that is really generating quite a bit of revenue. So the priority was really to get that incorporated along that whole customer side of the point of sales counter. And then also we have a slat wall so that there can be koozies and just some other products that can be sold there as well. So, yeah, really a lot of great detail and not only from the level of finish, talking about solid surface versus plastic laminate, but you know, it's really just how we're setting it up on the employee side and then also on the customer side.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys have kind of looked into all the details, and I think John I don't think he's gonna tell you he needs something if he doesn't really need it, I think, so.
Sure. Yep.
So it sounds like he's already kind of been a pretty major part of that, and, yeah, there was nothing else that I had time to really dig into a whole lot that I've got more questions on, but I just kind of wanted to, I mean, I know all those things can be small and by themselves, but when you look at the whole package, it can really add up in a hurry, so.
Some of the things that you would probably come across next, you probably wouldn't understand. A lot of it has to be what it is because of code, not just our building code, but state and health department codes. So you can't cut those things. And so that you have to realize a lot of that stuff is going to, you have to, for example, electrical, you have to have so many outlets, so many feet.
Yeah. Right.
And you have to have so many lights, and you have to have so much light in the building. You can't eliminate saying, well, I don't think we need this row light. I'm sorry, it's just the luminaires you have to have. Plumbing wise, it's the same thing. You have to have this to get to here, and that's the way it's got to be, and there's nothing we can do to change that. So a lot of those things that what you would like to see changed, we're cutting it down bare. I mean, you look at polished concrete versus having concrete poured and somebody coming in and putting flooring in.
Yeah. We
saved a ton of money on that.
Yeah.
Taking off the cabinet some of the doors. You're talking $20 per door for hinges. That adds up to a lot of money.
Yeah,
and then not counting the door, not counting the handle, and counting the lock. I mean, so those are a lot of things that we cut out. And as Mr. Beckers even said, and he said, God, I hope it's true that in 2 years we can put everything back in there. But when the liquor store is producing money and can do that and stay ahead of track, then we'll deal with it when we cross that bridge.
Yeah.
But we cut a lot of things out that I think that weren't necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it's those finishing, the finishing stuff that always is the things that we can really do a lot about, it's, and of course the roof and then, the extra snow melt stuff, but yeah, no, the only other thing was the awning and stuff like that. I don't know, I mean, looking at the pictures, I mean, it looks like it's going to be really nice. I can't imagine that's an extremely expensive way to go with that type of an awning, is it? Or
That's correct. It is a rather inexpensive way to achieve an exterior, kind of making it a prominent entrance. It really calls that out. And then the signage, which will be determined here as we get moving forward here after bids. But that, there's an opportunity for some signage above there. But
Right.
yeah, it's a pretty typical application, but I think it looks nice on this building.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think other than those questions, I think it looks pretty good, and that's all I got.
I make a motion to approve.
If I may.
Yep.
Couple things. I think we should ask if Councilmember Burgley has any questions, just to make sure that he was given the time, if he does. And then I want to call out the next steps that we have in the memo from Mr. England. So we do have to keep, as we have this special meeting, is to keep the project on task with such a tight timeline. We do have a special council meeting that will need to be called to award the contract on April 13th. If council agrees to that, I just want to make mention that that is in here. Because of the tight timeline, it doesn't fit within the weeks that we have our council meetings. So if everyone's on board with that, and there's no further questions.
I'll just let you know that one of the reasons, and I told Ms. Wood and I told us all in the meetings, the reason to do that is 2 weeks or a week and a half delay at the start could be 6 weeks in the end. And my thought is when we award this contract that we're going to tell the contractor, order everything now, materials, because there's 8 to 12 week wait period for trusses. There's going to be a wait period for material. Mike just brought up, I think you said it was 12, what did you say, it was 6 months for steel? If we were doing a bar truss roof, it could be 6 months to a year before we get bar trusses. This stuff, if he orders it, he can lock in that price. Pricing is doing this every day, just like this. So for us to call a special session would make a lot more sense to gain 2 weeks and not lose it at the end.
Yeah. I got a buddy who's an electrician, he couldn't find those blue plastic boxes for residential. Couldn't find them anywhere. No suppliers had it, that's just crazy. So, yeah, no, I agree. I'm fine with that, April 13th, but can we do it earlier, maybe?
We can set the time. The mayor needs to call the special council meeting, just like this one this evening. Keep us
Okay.
on task, so it's whatever you all decide.
Okay. I mean, not like super early, but like earlier than 7?
We're at 5 right now.
Well, yeah, is that okay? I mean,
Yeah,
that work?
I'm okay with that. Are you guys okay with that? Councilman Burgley, is that feasible for you? If we do we don't have a meeting that day, do we?
It'll be Tuesday, April 13th, then at 5 PM if it works. He can unmute himself. Got it.
Councilman Burgley, unmute yourself, sir.
I can mute people, but I cannot unmute them.
I said yes. Could you hear me?
Now I can hear you. You unmuted yourself.
Okay, sorry.
April
It had a line
13th at
through
5
on mute,
PM.
so I
We'll
thought
set
I was
that then.
unmuted, so apparently I was not. So I don't have any more questions either. I heard Josie say if I had any more questions, but my questions were answered.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Lundin with a April 13th at 5 PM meeting set for
Second.
our next, and a second by Councilman Burgley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Anything else we have, Ms. Wood?
Mayor, any other items?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Lundin and a quick second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
Aye, Paul
sign.
Burgley.
Thank you, Councilman Burgley.
Aye, Paul Burgley. I adjourn.
Thank you, Councilman Burgley. Motion carries 5-0, therefore we stand adjourned.